Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Plus Three Futures and Commodities Show. We are recording about 45 minutes before the close on Friday, the 21st of February. And the theme for the show today is it looks like the winter hibernation in the markets may be ending. We're going to review the levels, see what was violated, what made a decision, what's still in the levels, and based on that, we'll be prepared for the week to come. My name is Ben Maldonado. As always, I'm here with my partner Barrie Hederachi. Barrie, how we doing?
Doing great, doing great.
Happy about the volatility today. I know you and I have been messaging all day long about the excitement of finally having stuff move.
Some movement, yeah, yeah. Well, we got all of it in one day, but that's fine, Well, actually 2 days, right? A little bit yesterday, a little bit today,
Yeah, let's
and in a number of markets. So yeah, we can
let's
talk about
jump
all
in
that.
and see if we're breaking out of these terrible ranges we've been in and where we are and what the status is.
Yeah, well, let's take a start with the S&P cash, and
Hmm.
unfortunately, we're still in the bracket. I mean, we could be breaking up, but we've been in that area before. The other opposite side of the 6113, the upside resistance that we had, of course, we have 6020 bracket to the downside, and we just went from the one end to the other end. Looking at the cash, really this 6020, it's really the area to like break and see if we get stuck below that level is the key to getting the downside rolling. And you can see that, if we do something like that, there's really not a whole lot between 6020 and 5850. So there's a whole lot of space we could cover in a hurry.
That's a big air pocket.
Yep, that's a big air pocket. And so you want to watch for that next week. We'll see how it all works out. But 6020 again is the key to watch because either we're going to bounce off of it, get back into the range and chop around some more, or we're going to, sort of slip away from 6020 and towards this 5850 level basis the cash and basis the daily chart.
Hmm.
That's kind of it for the cash. Let's take a quick look at the Dow. Now here we talked about this last
Yeah,
week.
that's a definitive break.
That's a that's a very clean break.
Yeah.
We talked about it last week. I drew that little triangle up here and said, this break is the one that we really want to watch and to see if the break can get through this sort of this zone that we had, support resistance zone. And sure enough, yesterday we broke through it, and today we really couldn't recover back into that area, where we broke the line, which is up in here. And we sliced right through all the sort of the support, soft support that it was providing. You can see how we were sitting on top. Basically, we were all just kind of poking fingers through into here all this time.
Hmm.
But today, obviously, we went right through it. So just like we talked about in the cash, we're talking about the 60-20, obviously 49, 720, 43, 723 is the number we want to watch on the Dow, see if we can get back in here and somehow get stuck in the zone here, or if we've decisively just sort of broken to the downside. And that's kind of how I have to read it. The break is too big and clean to think it's a false break, but you never
Hmm.
know. But it just looks very directional, to say.
Decisive.
Decisive, yeah, that's what I was looking for. Decisive and very clean triangle. So everything looks good. We had the timing up in here. I mean, we had a square right here last week. So all these things have to somehow, come to fruition, and it looks like it's starting. For support, if we continue in the direction, 42,572 seems like good support. That's 216 degrees up from the October 22 lows. And this is sort of where all the song and dance has happened in the past. A little below, a little above, but this is generally the range, the zone. So let's see how we do. Even if, bounce back up into 50, 43, 957, this area is fine. We just want to see, you know, where these counter trends will stop next. That said, if you can hold above these levels, then we have more to go. Somehow, we're putting out another pattern. So we'll have to keep an eye
Hmm.
out for that.
Hmm.
There's always the other possibility, right? So we have to be open for that.
Very true.
Hmm. And here's the March contract. Saves a lot of talking. We've been watching this every week. And what happened, the interesting thing, the reason I watch the contracts on their own is to see how the price action works. And you can see here that the futures contract really never really did a false break up, or we really didn't make a new high. The false break, if any, were right against the, January highs, right? Not the December highs.
Hmm.
So, so it was showing some weakness, and we kind of stuck to our guns because until these highs are taken out, we just have to consider those highs are in place, and we have to trade it accordingly, no matter what the sort of the spin that comes in during this entire consolidation, let's just say.
Hmm.
Um,
Especially
well,
with that good timing at the high, that 90 right there at the high.
yeah. After that came in, we really never took those highs out. So
Hmm.
you just have to see. And then in the middle of all of this, we were wondering, well, was that correction enough to validate that, right? Was that the end of the move with the correction, post price and time squaring out here? But it's hard to tell, you just have to trade it as it comes, and until this high gets taken out, you have to respect that.
Hmm.
And well, so 50% of this square, as far as the futures market goes, 61.20 was really the level to watch. And you can see how I think we talked about it last week, and we slipped right through it today, took out yesterday's low, and that's when things really got start to roll. So anyway, we covered a lot of ground in a hurry. We're right around at the quarter square. So 59.40 is pretty much the 90-degree level we're watching for next week for support if we continue to go that way. But now the other side of the coin is, as long as we're below the 50% of the square, which is the 61.20, we have to treat it the market to be weak, and we're going to
Hmm.
look for these counter trends to see where they stall out and reverse on the shorter time frames or even on the daily, just like we watched here. After we broke the 50% of the square, we had a nice 3-day rally, 4 days, and we reversed, very close to it, and we have a lower high till we bumped up in January, came back up again. As soon as we slipped to 50%, there's always a good move to the downside. Same
Hmm.
thing happened here. We slipped 50%, big move all the way down to the 90. Slipped it here again, more than a quarter of a square correction. So we did it again today. So now we have to see, well, where is it going to go? Normally it goes all the way down to 90. That's been sort of the pattern starting, back in November, right?
Hmm.
So you can see we've been in this bracket basically for a few months, and a number of cycles came in and went, but the big cycle that did hit, kind of stuck. So we'll work with what we have, see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yep.
So this is the futures continuation chart. Pretty much the same story. We have the 50% square, even though this is a rolling contract. We have 61.10 looks like the 6100, 6110 seems like the area to watch. That's 50% of the square.
Hmm.
So again, we talked about all of the evidence in the past shows. If you haven't seen it, go back one or two or three episodes and you can look these up. And we talked about the ABCDs and the Gartleys and the circles and the squares and the timing cycles that came in. As you can see, there's a lot to talk about as we burn through a couple of 3 months. The market not doing anything but to rotate around here.
And it did give us a little false break at the high too.
We did. We got a false break at the high. And well, I mean, that was a thing to watch, right? Once the
Hmm.
false break came in, we were watching to see if the market was going to start showing signs of weakness. And sure enough,
Yep. We got
it's
confirmation.
yeah, we got confirmation. So anyway, based on the futures contract, we're looking at 58.92 to be the next sort of level of support. So we'll see how that works out. But if we get down to 58.92 or some of these other support levels that we talk about, then we have to think, the big weekly, daily cycles are in place.
Hmm.
and deal with it that way. And if we slip through 58.92, then you have 57.50 as the big support level. And it is big because that's coming off of the October 22nd lows, 270 degrees up on a daily chart. So that's, I would say, a respectable level. you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
That all being said, I mean, this is short term looking for these levels. I mean, we could cover all of this in a couple of days if, you know, if that's the direction. But in the bigger picture, we have these big ABCDs that finished up. And if these really did terminate up here, this one and the one we'll look at in the weekly, then a couple of 2, 3 day move like this is really not what you'd call a correction. It'd be a much bigger one.
It's just the
So
start.
yeah, it could be just a start, especially.
Hmm.
Well, when we go to the weekly, we can look at the bigger numbers
Hmm.
or the bigger pattern. So I think the lower we go, for example, if we take out 58.92, which seems like so far away, and and the counter trend starts to fail, then I think we have to think in terms of a much larger pattern unfolding.
Hmm.
It's just kind of baked into the deal. So,
Yeah.
and this is the daily S&P we started with. So 60/20. So we talked about this enough. Again, corresponding levels here will be 270 degrees up. On the cash chart will be 57.50 and coming down into 56.73. So this area is really big support. Again, my point is, given the cycles that expired and all the patterns that sort of got triggered, coming all the way down to 57.50 would indicate a much larger pattern is already unfolding. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it
Hmm.
might not be the dip to buy
Right.
until we have to see how it squares out and all of that and when we get there. But I'm just saying, by the time we get here, it's going to indicate, hey, we have much bigger things happening here. It's unlocking a lot of bigger cycles. So
Right. In other words, the high would be more significant based on that.
absolutely, well, we can finally confirm it, right? Like the
Hmm.
weekly things that
Hmm.
came in, you had the monthly cycles that came in, and the monthlies when they came in on December, uh, we talked about how we could be off 1 or 2 bars. Of course, on a
Hmm.
monthly, that's just 1 bar. So
Right. Right.
not a big deal in terms of that. But if you're watching this daily, it just seems ridiculous, right? It seems like it's never going to end.
Hmm.
All right, so that's kind of my wrap up for the S&P on the daily. And I don't have a whole lot to add because when things are moving, you don't really have a whole lot to say. But if you guys want to go back and check the, like how we kind of built up to this point, you can look at the other past episodes and it's all there. And if you guys like our work, please remember to like and to subscribe and to hit the alerts. And last week you guys did amazingly, so that's really nice. We appreciate that,
Hmm.
Ben. So
Absolutely.
here's the 30 minute. We look at this every now and then. We got the high come in. Well, this is exactly not how we started out. I've been posting on X 30 minutes, and the charts I posted were anchored to this low.
And that was good. That was good vibration.
Yeah, it was very good. We were looking basically we were stuck between the 61.16 and 61.61.
Hmm.
And we were really looking, I mean, that was a resistance. It was kind of building up, starting about 61.46, 53, and into 61. So that's why you see three lines there. So finally, after the false break, that's when you watch. We were talking earlier about once a false break comes in, well, what do? Well, you watch to see how the next counter trend works out. So next counter trend basically here got stuck below 61.53. It started to get weak, really couldn't get above 61.53. After that, you can see how we failed. So if you just draw a trend line here, you can see in the shorter time frames, as soon as that 61.46 gave out, we were flying the other morning. So it struggled through it that day, but then you can see the next counter trend couldn't even get to 61.46. You can see how we kind of went right under the structural support resistance and just started to
Hmm.
fail today. So that's a signal. So false breaks we talk about all the time. Why do we talk about them? Because you catch these fast moves, and that's the whole point, right? It's better than grinding through these up up legs holding this up
Right.
forever.
Right. Right.
Nothing like fast money, right?
Hmm.
So fast moves come out of these false breaks. And so after that, we took out 61.16 and straight down to the next level, which is 90 up from the low back in early February. 60.30 was a level that's from up here, from the high. And the 90 60 25 is really the number here, 90 up from that low. So it's a good place to park it for a little bit. It's good support. So we'll watch to see how the counter trends work out from here. Now it's like back to work, right? Normal back
Hmm.
to trading. At least
Hmm.
we have a bigger range to work with and some movement. So I think that's nice. So
Yeah.
the down move, basically we did 90 down, 90 94 down at 135 degrees in price. So that should hold probably into the close unless some funny option stuff's going on. You
Hmm.
never know, right? So, but anyway, those are the numbers. That's how it looks like. Let's take a look at the weekly. So this is the weekly cash chart we've been watching, and if you've been watching, it's just like nothing's really happening every day. Every week the chart looks pretty much the same. Not much has happened. But again, here we go. We have about 5 weeks up here. Haven't been able to take it out and settle above this level. We talked about that. This big ABCD, giant 4-year ABCD that you just cannot do, you know, 5 weeks down and then forget all about that. So that's why I'm thinking, and there's not to mention this big old circle, right? We broke that. And to me, the circle and the geometric line that we had drawn in, you can see how it all kind of meets here. You can see prices, we broke, went back up to sort of like kiss from below pattern. And so we're still here. I mean, if it's a weekly chart, those kisses, it can last a while. So it's like it's a weekly kiss. Um, so we'll see how that works out. For now, it looks like, again, we had this time we have a false break up there to sort of back it up, not just turning around in a consolidation. So we'll see. That's what I have to say about that weekly. You have anything to add to that?
No, just that the weekly signals are so much more significant, and this was a big pattern.
Yeah, and here's the
The
futures
futures,
weekly
yeah.
futures chart. Again,
Hmm.
61.66 was the level we were watching coming off the 2020 low. And these are not some change, right? These are big numbers. And I mean, obviously this level is holding some weight. Otherwise, we would be stuck here for so long,
Hmm.
clearly, right? And last week we went over how this timing works, how, high could come in and how many bars. We looked at some examples, how long it takes for something to actually get tripped into the next trend. Either way, it could be consolidating and get tripped into the next trend, which could be a continuation, or it could be some kind of a correction. So either way, I think, well, at least we got some movement on Friday. So we'll see.
Absolutely.
We'll see how the follow through happens. Watch those levels that we talked about. And the reason I say that is if the levels aren't really breached, and then we end up, um, for example, if we really don't take out 60-20, but we end up 60-50, 60-70, 80, and we start hanging around in there, now we're back in some kind of consolidation. So we have to, wait till the pattern clears up again. Right now, the pattern's pretty clear. We broke the uptrend line. If you guys see, I didn't put it in because you can I think everybody can eyeball that.
Hmm.
So you can see we broke the uptrend line. The next trend line, if you guys are, really drawing these out, next trend line is down here. So if we get down into here, that means we clearly left the 60-20, sort of the gravitational area. And if we get down here, then obviously any kind of a counter trend we can wait against the 60-20 area and see if we're going to fail there, which I would imagine it would in this range because that's it's a key level.
Hmm.
Um, so let's see what happens. Now you guys know levels for pretty much, yeah, I think we're good. And you're going to
Yep.
cover the Nasdaq, and you're going to cover Bitcoin, which again were
Yes.
kind of interesting,
Yep.
and a few other things, right? What are you
Yep.
covering today? We got the Nasdaq.
Uh, the grains, sugar, and natural gas, and those are the
Yeah.
commodities we'll cover.
Yeah. Natural gas, you guys should just really be on it because we've been talking about it every so often, at least a few
Hmm.
times a month. Not because we have nothing to talk about, but because it's going to move
Yeah.
soon.
Right. Right.
All right. So bonds, well, we had this ABCD drawn up last week and, possibly getting up into the 119.5 area on a kind of some kind of a corrective rebound. And as of today, we finally got into the 45-degree level. So we did a 22.5-degree correction. We'll see what happens. So when it stops exactly at the line, um, this is the number we have to watch. So it's about 116. Let's say it's 116.15. Let's say 16.5 is the level you want to watch in the bonds. If we get above that, well, then 19 is pretty much above that, meaning, get above and sort of stabilize. Then 19.5 is really the next stop. And and we have an ABCD completion, which is ABCDs are perfect counter trend uh, termination point on big bear market. So watch that, see what happens. Anything for the bonds?
Yeah, just like you said, that key level, we're tapping it now. We'll see if we can get
Mm-hmm.
above it. I mean,
Yeah.
some of the commodities we're going to talk about, we're tapping key levels last week, and we'll talk about and see. You'll see what we're talking about when we're saying, okay, it's got to get over it and stay on top.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's take a look at bonds. The weekly chart. Well, we that 114 is holding, which is interesting. So we held it for 3 weeks, poked around. So obviously, you don't want to be selling it right here because that's just telling you the larger time frame is stable above 114. So we'll see. Now we're stuck between 114 on the weekly to the downside support. We have resistance, at the 116 level on the daily. So let it be. Mm-hmm.
The other thing to watch with bonds is, are
Mm-hmm.
they catching a bid because of, a flight to safety?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that a bigger, we have to look at that, the intermarket relationships too. So equities are
Mm-hmm.
weak and now bonds are catching a bid.
Mm-hmm.
Is that saying, okay, you don't buy the dip because, big money's going for safety right now. Let's see. Let's see if the
Right.
bonds
Right.
follow through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In the meantime, it looks like some kind of a corrective leg. So
Hmm.
we'll hang with that. So yeah, this 117.22, that area seems 116.20, that this little buffer area seems like the resistance level. And we've been kind of hanging right below that all this time. So we'll give it we'll wait till next week and revisit revisit this.
Hmm.
So that's the bonds. Let's jump over to crude.
Painfully sideways.
Yeah, yeah. It's a little not a whole lot of movement.
No.
But last couple of days, we went back up to test the 73 and a half and got whacked. So now we're back where we were on Wednesday. So
Yeah. Yes.
like you said, it's not that much a movement, but when the movement's this tight, we're about to break. So watch this
Yep.
carefully. We can go a little lower. We talked about crude last couple of times, went into a little bit more detail about 69, why that's important. And ultimately, if we can have some kind of a washout, this get down to 61, 60 area and get all the weak hands out of the way.
Yep. We just have to wait for the setup.
Yeah, if that's in the cards. So we'll see. So up until then, not much other
Hmm.
than just that it's weak below
Yes.
73.50, but you guys already know that. Let's move on to the weekly. So here we go. 3 weeks in a row, we're just sitting on top of that trend line.
Yep.
And up until it breaks, I'd say the fuse is still lit because we could reverse all of that on a dime. So watch crude closely, even though it looks like it's falling asleep, right? Looking a little boring. I think it's time to watch it.
Okay.
Especially a couple of weeks into a consolidation, you want to watch it pretty close.
Hmm.
And going back into our big circle chart, we broke back into the triangle and we'll just have to wait. I'm kind of watching even the shape of this, see if anything like that would can hold. But if that for that to hold, this week's low would have to hold, you know. Otherwise, we
Hmm.
break into this, and now we have a whole another pattern unfolding. So anyway, so based on this, 6450 area is really the level to watch on the basis of the weekly charts. And yeah, we'll see. Let's take a look at gold. We talked about the measured move up and the fact that it's a measured move, but we want to watch that 90 degrees up. Ben, I think you brought that up, right? The 90, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
And that 2905, you know, long as we're above that, you know, gold's a little bit, it's primed. So watch that. We might not have the sort of the reversal that we were looking for.
Hmm.
And we talked about this 45-day move, which squared out yesterday
Perfectly. Yep.
perfectly.
Hmm.
So let's keep an eye on that too, because the fact that we couldn't really get on top of that is another sort of a indicator. So indication. So 2960, 2960, 2961. Watch that closely. I'll leave the chart like this. We'll see next week if we can get above it, or the goal is going to take a little breather
Yeah. That
and back off a little bit, right?
that daily 90-45 I saw too. So that's perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
it's a
Right
pretty
there.
good place to stall out.
And it
So
can just be a short-term cycle too. Like it could just chop around or
mhm.
go sideways, but something ended there. Let's just see what's next because you even had a false break at the high.
Yeah, so let's see. And you know, given the sort of if the tone doesn't change, then you know anything above 2870 is still very strong. So
Hmm.
we'll just stay with that. Here's the weekly gold chart, and
Got some timing there.
120 weeks is 120 weeks. Not a whole lot of
Yes.
other ways to talk about that.
Yes, it
So,
is.
and we did go up into one third in price into the next square.
Hmm.
So we have timing here. We saw the 45 getting stalled last week and this week on the daily. So gold looks like we might have something at a high in here, especially with all the gold headlines this week. You know, I thought it was like, oh, how odd, exactly at 120 weeks, and we have all this timing coming in. And all of a sudden, gold is in the
Mm.
headlines. Um, so you know what that means. So
Yep.
so I think yeah, gold's probably looks more like it's going to take a break than not. But you got the levels from the daily. I think those are the key levels to watch to help figure out the direction. So watch that 90, basically highs here this week. Let's move on to silver. Silver pulled back. I would say, you know, this could be a check back into the breakout
Hmm.
line. And even if it wasn't, let's ignore the triangle, ignoring the triangle, you know, 32 and a quarter, it's about good support. I would say as long as we're above that. I mean, silver at 32, right? We used to
Hmm.
dream about that back in 2020. So
$5 silver days.
yeah, so here we are. And I think you know, above 32, 32 and a quarter it's in a strong position. So let's continue to watch it. But you know, if gold squared out in weekly basis, and you know, silver has similar numbers at it coming up. So you know, we have a 45 here. So I would say it's probably also going to consolidate and correct a little bit. But watch that 32 level. If it's doing it above that, obviously it's going to be much stronger than not. All right, moving over to copper. Pretty good. I think we called out this potential for a false break last week.
Hmm.
And sure enough, we dropped right quarter of a square right down into the middle, you know, 454. And we managed to hold that. You can see the power of the 50% of the square, man. We held that for 4 days. And well, the thing is, if we don't go, we're probably going to drop another quarter if we don't hurry up
Right.
and get going.
Yep.
So it needs to move. Like I said, so 454, if we get below that, it's probably going to get a little slippery.
I mean, and when you
Um,
zoom out, you could see it's been going sideways for, since last
yeah, after we
May,
square it
June.
out, yeah, after we square it out here,
Hmm.
it was a big 220, 216 week or 225 week,
Yeah, it
right?
was 216 by
Yeah.
216, something like that.
So after that square, this is what happened, which is not all that negative, you know,
No,
it's
it's
not the
not.
worst that the market could do.
Right.
So it's all very positive, and we started. I mean, still making higher highs and higher lows. I mean, I'm just saying only because of potential false break, which looks like it's going in that direction. So it's got a little bit more to go. If we can manage to hold about 454, I'd say the copper is super strong.
Hmm.
So we'll bid at that. Let's take a quick look at the weekly. So weekly, what happened was we went back up and tapped the 50% of the square, a little bit of a false break. So looking at the weekly, you can tell, if we take out last week's low, we're going to go, we're going to go a little lower and consolidate. Again, on basis the weekly, long as we're above like 423, 425, market's fairly strong. So I would let it correct and go through the motions like copper usually does.
Hmm.
But watch those level. That'll help you stay on the right side of the market for sure.
Agreed.
All right, let's move on to the dollar. Okay, so the dollar, we talked about this 107 and a quarter being important, that if we lose that, then we can look for weaker conditions. And
Looks like
sure,
we lost it.
yeah, we lost it last week, and came back for recheck, and that was on Wednesday, and we failed. So
Hmm.
that was pretty much kind of what we expected. Now, dollar's been correcting, and if you look, I mean, I'm using a 60-degree chart here, but square. But if you go to the high, we kind of did a
90, right?
sort of a measured move. Well, we did a 30 by 30 coming into
Mm.
the corner here.
Hmm.
So, that could be the end of the correction. We'll see. So it's something to keep in mind, right? Either way, we know when we get down into this area, the quarter of the square, about 105.75 or so, we're getting into support, starting to build up around 106 and a half, right there where where the low came in. From there to about 106, we have support building up. So we can make a case for the correction might be over, but let's watch it. In either case, um, it's it's a little soft below 107 and a quarter.
Hmm.
Okay. So that's for the dollar. And the weekly dollar, we went up and hit this 109.80, 110 area. We talked about the resistance there. We were looking for some kind of a correction, made a lower high and started to trade lower. We were looking at the 50% to be a good area to wrap that up. So around 106. So that number keeps coming up, right? Around 106, 106.20. So if we can hold there, we have good structural support, and it's a good place on the square. So if we hold there, I would expect the trend to continue, or at least consolidate above that. It would be strong.
Hmm. Hmm.
If we lose that, worst case, we get down in this 105 and a quarter level. So that's kind of what I have for the dollar.
Okay.
We'll see how that works out. Let's move on to the euro. Euro dollar. Well, we tapped the 90, which at around 39.87, and we bounced. So
Hmm.
we added this ABCD just to make sure that we'll remember that if we can get up there and some kind of finish that counter trend. And we haven't quite gotten there, so it's possible that we get there and the dollar goes a little bit lower and everybody adjusts and this leg finishes up. But if it doesn't and we kind of fall below, get through this 39.87 level, I would say the euro is a lot weaker than it seems.
Hmm.
Okay. And looking at the weekly euro, well, we're still kind of battling it out at the 50% level. We managed
Huge,
to, yeah, we managed to
huge
kind of,
battle.
yeah, huge battle, and we managed to kind of hold about it this week. But like I said, if we take out the lows next week, then I think euro has a lot more to go. The
Hmm.
50% level is 41.92 for you guys. But it doesn't matter what it's doing. Anything below 108 is weak. But now, looking at the structure, anything below like 61.80 is clearly on the weaker side, right? I mean, that's
Hmm.
giving it a lot of cushion. But even like 10, like 57.70 area, all this is kind of weak. So we'll see. It is starting to look like it's making a little bit of a triangle. So it's possible that we consolidate here before we move on. Either way, anything drops so close to the 50% line, you want to be careful trading that unless you know the direction very clearly. Like here, we held at the 90-degree level and the bounce was okay. But when you're in there, you can see the kind of price action you get. So for short term, it's okay, but I don't know anything longer than that.
Mm-hmm.
And what else do I have? Well, I'm not going to get too much into natural gas because you're going to cover it, right?
Yep, I'll
But
cover
I'll
it.
tell you what, though, we're really flirting with a breakout here.
Yes,
That's
sir.
that's what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
All right, looking at the Hang Seng. Well, man, Hang Seng likes my S&P. Just
Uh, Beautiful, huh?
just rocking it away, man. And we caught it at every level, right? Found the support, you get the false break here,
I mean,
held above.
that's a beautiful illustration of these false breaks, right? And what happens and
Oh,
why
perfect.
you look for them, right?
This is perfect. Yeah, this is a great example. Textbook.
False break
Um,
at a cardinal point, like 72 degrees, that's
yeah,
big.
yeah. No, it's beautiful. So
Hmm.
that happened. Then we held above the 380, moved through the 50%. Then I talked about this 22,709 being a key level to watch.
Hmm.
Sure enough, we got on top of it,
Check back.
reversed, checked back, and boom. Now we're
Yeah.
off to the races. So the 144 level is really the next, so the place of, I don't know, place of reckoning.
Hmm.
So 23,877 is that level. And so I'm expecting some kind of a consolidation. So, if you get up there, come back and consolidate above 22,709 is still in a great place to move higher. So that's that. But you can, even when this low came in, which we called out also, you can see how we started making these higher lows, ending up
Hmm.
really accelerating and starting to really move now. So that's the Hang Seng. I don't know how many of you guys actually trade the Hang Seng, but it's good to keep an eye on it, just so
Sure.
you know where things are. All right, that's it for me. And if
Okay.
you get, let me put it back to you so we can cover all the other good stuff.
Excellent.
All right. Well, there you go.
What's the first thing that jumps out to you on this, Barry? We had a high, a
hmm
low, and a lower
Lower high.
high,
Yep.
and a
Yep.
big reversal.
hmm Well, I'm kind of almost like in that, I've seen this before because we've had these big breaks to the downside off to 50%, like
Yep.
the one we had in January, only to come back, right?
Yeah.
And we might still be in the churning here like the S&P, but let's see. But a good break, I mean, this is clean, right? A nice clean
I,
break.
and I mean, wouldn't it be just like the market to do that? Like lull everybody to sleep and saying, oh, it's just, it's a 1 day wonder. It's going to bounce back. It's going to bounce back. And then we get, the actual
Mm.
big move happens. I mean,
Yeah,
that's
well, yeah.
all, it
Mm.
happens so many times. Anyway,
That,
the,
that's the reason why we keep going back to why we think it's a high. You want to go back, remember where we came from, because otherwise you get lulled into whatever the current news is and you forget what the hell's happening.
and the key thing here is again, you had a high, a
hmm
low, and a lower
Lower
high.
high. Yep.
And now we've reversed hard off of this. So
hmm
what are the key numbers for the NQs next week? On the upside, 22,090. If we stay stuck below that on any rebound, it means we're heading to 21,366.
Yep.
And if we keep heading down and slice through that and get stuck under there, then you can see where the the fat pitch can come in, right? Where you have the high, the lower high, and then a lower low, right? Take out this
hmm
low and then you'll have a lower low. Then you could really get something going.
hmm And
I
that's kind
mean,
of what I was kind of hinting towards on the S&P. If it gets too low past some of those levels, then we can get a bigger thing could be happening.
right. And minimally, we're going to look at something like this,
hmm
an ABCD here that would get us,
Right.
right down to this half square area. So that's the thing to note. Doesn't guarantee it's going down. We're just looking at probabilities here, right? We
hmm
tried to stay on top of this week, did for 3 days, and gave it up today. And this is an outside reversal bar. We did make a peak, a little higher high today and ended up closing on the lows.
And yesterday we took out the low of the inside bar.
That's correct. So
hmm
again, it's evidence. That's what we constantly look for and what we kind of try to show on this on the podcast every week is we stack up the evidence and say, okay, which side of the scale are things, leaning towards? This is
Hmm.
another important piece of evidence, the price action we got this week, which is the lower high and now, this sharp move lower.
Hmm.
So take note. Here's your weekly. You can see this week we did get a higher high on the week, but we closed on the lows of the week. So the real interesting thing will be if we take out these lows Sunday night, Monday morning, right? This week's lows and the previous week's lows. Weekly chart, the half square, 21,082. So not too dissimilar from the 21,366 here on the daily. If we slice through that and get stuck below it, weekly basis, it opens up 18,000. So let's see. Monthly, we've made a higher high. Here's that number again, 21,100. So we're
Hmm.
pretty clear. 21,400 to basically 21,000 is going to be a really important level, and we should see that band tested next week. And if we can hold it, okay, Armageddon's delayed again, but if we get through it, we could get some action going to the downside in the NQs. Anything you want to add, Barrie, on the NQs here?
No, we're good. I think you hit all the main points.
Yeah. Watch these levels. Watch this
Hmm.
21,366 to 21,000 is really key. Daily, weekly, monthly. It'll tell us, give us clues as to what's most likely
Hmm.
to happen next. All right, let's jump over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin did something interesting. It looked like we were going to have a really nice, you know, move up today. Made a
Right.
made a made a higher high and then closed on the lows. An outside reversal, just like the NQs.
So we're starting to see some lower lows and lower highs.
Yep, we are. And this false break is starting to look like a real false break now,
Hmm.
right? Because we made a false break with that high, had this low, tried to rally, and are giving it up again.
Yeah.
So 96,619 to the upside. We got to watch that. If we can get on top of that and sit on that, that's good. That means the bulls are able to sort of hold it off and just keep this sideways movement going.
Hmm.
If we get stuck under next week, 91,000.
Yep.
Again, bigger picture, zoom out, we're bullish all the way down to here. All right. We could pull all the way back to here and just basically, if we sit on top of that, that's still bullish.
Hmm.
Wouldn't be so bullish going from here to there, but in bigger picture, it's bullish.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a look at the weekly. Weekly's grinding.
Yeah.
We're
Well, I don't know. That 89,540 looks like really important level.
super important. We tested it here in
Mhm.
November
Yeah.
and we tested it here in January.
Right.
So lose that, then the correction's coming into this, that 71, 74 area, 73 area.
Hmm.
For now, listen, it's burning off time. If it can maintain that and just keep going sideways, super bullish long term.
Hmm.
No worries. There's your monthly. Key level monthly basis is 93.
Mm.
Get stuck below that, then it's 73, 74. Here we come. So we know the levels. You know what to look for here. You know the bigger picture. You know the shorter term is not looking so great. Bigger picture does look good for Bitcoin. Any other comments for you on Bitcoin?
No, we're good.
All right, let's head over to the grains, which you had the confidence of saying the low was in way back here. I'm saying the bull market started. Bear market's over. Bull market started here.
Yeah.
And I think here's the reason why we're starting to capture levels, right? And you can
Yeah.
see it. You'll see it in this chart. You'll see it in the weeklies. You'll see it in the monthlies. You'll see it in corn. You'll see it in soybean. We're just sort of grinding up and capturing levels, just
Hmm.
like happened here, right? Last week we pushed up. This week Every bar this week cleared that 578.
Hmm.
And look at this. If you really get into the structure, look at the structure there. It's perfect, right?
Yeah.
The low on Tuesday because we didn't trade Monday, the low on Tuesday, covered the high from this day. So just looks good. It's grinding. Use pullbacks, whatever entry method you use, the market's bullish. Here's your weekly.
Hmm.
Nothing terribly exciting, but just another up week, right?
Yep.
That, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up weeks. So this you can see we when we cleared 536, we're heading to 681. Weekly basis, that'll be the next test, 681. All right, let's look at the monthly. Give you the monthly perspective. Staying above 595. Another week left in February. Then if we can have the low in March stay above 595, we will have cleared this really important level. Like, see how important it is?
Yeah.
You were here, you were below it for 2 years here. You were below it for 6 years here.
Right.
It's a pretty important level in wheat.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if the bull market gets going, if we use a 45, high to low, it's done 90s. Let's say 45 here. Puts us into 2028. Nice 2, 3 year bear market, a bull market
Hmm.
after a 2 year bear market. So this looks good. Monthly basis 595. Clear that, then I think it's launch time. All right. Anything to add on wheat?
Yeah. Well, I would say watch for those corrections and trade them. This
Yep.
is this is might be a this might be a market where you start buying the dips.
Yeah. Yeah. This is one where buying the dips I think is going to pay off. All right. Here's corn. Now, what did we do in corn?
You bought the dips.
Yeah. Well, last week, if you remember, we ended the week here, right? Right, butt up right against this 499 level and the full square. That was
Mhm.
this bar right here.
Yep.
Crisscrossed it on Tuesday, gapped up on Wednesday, and are pulling back perfectly. As long as we stay above 499 on this pullback, that means we cleared all of this.
Hmm. There we go.
Yep.
That's a big point.
Very big point. Let's look at the weekly. Here's something else we're dealing with. 517, right? And now you can see how using the different time frames and the squares, how you can see how a market can stair step higher or stair step lower. Weekly basis, we're battling at the high of this week, which was 517, got rejected. But next week, let's see what happens. Can we get a bar that straddles that line? And then the following week, do we get the bar that clears it? It's kind of how this stuff works.
Hmm.
I mean, look at here when we came up to this 412. 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks, got a bar across, get a bar above, pull back up, and then the bar sits on top and you go.
Hmm.
So it won't be unusual for this to battle here for a few weeks. But weekly basis, 517 is key. Clear that, 621 on deck. All right, let's look at the monthly. Monthly, we've got a full bar above,
Hmm.
and it looks, barring any disaster next week's, looks like we will get a full bar above, which means we've cleared 463 monthly basis. Clearing this, clearing all this.
Hmm.
As you can see, corn's further along than wheat and further along than soybeans. It kind of led out of the hole. Because to get it clear on a monthly basis is not easy. And we broke the 2 year downtrend. So corn looks good, doing what it's supposed to do. Daily basis, let's watch it and see if we can hold 499 on this pullback. If we do, 551 next daily basis. What do you see here in corn?
Well, pretty much the same thing. I think the trends are starting to pick up some momentum and well, I think continue to trade in that direction and watch for the pullbacks.
That's
And
it.
I think when you look at, I don't know if you can look at the weeklies today, but you can start to see how things are starting to form.
At
And
100%.
mhm,
The weeklies are showing, bullish trends. Soybeans.
yep.
So last week we ended here, right, with a bar sitting right on the full square and
Hmm.
and a bar crisscrossing it, right?
Hmm.
So we got a crisscross and then boom, we got the gaps up. So now we're just watching to see do we get 1035 holding on any pullback? If we do, that means we cleared all this.
Hmm.
And that's a nice, let me move this trend line. That's a nice move higher with on the daily basis here. So watch next week to
Yeah.
make sure we clear 1035.
Yep.
And then if we do, 1125 is next.
Hmm.
We're pausing a little bit here. You can see there were some sellers in there, probably because of these highs, but it's doing what it needs to do to stair step higher. Let's look at the weekly. Weekly's battling at 1060. You can see, look how long we've been battling here. 5, 6 weeks.
Hmm.
Maybe next week we get a little gap up and clear it. But it's not unusual to see this kind of battle at an important level. It's not getting through, but it's not giving it up either. It's basically been sideways. All right, let's look at the monthly, give you the monthly perspective. Monthly, we're clearing. We're clearing 983.
Hmm. Slowly but surely.
Yeah,
It's
and then
happening.
and then and then we'll break the downtrend line, from the two-year bear market, and then we move up towards 1275. They're all, as I said, the grains are in different stages, but they're all demonstrating as they capture levels that the bullish side is the right side. It's the more powerful side right now.
Mhm.
Anything to add on beans?
No, we're good.
Okay, let's go to the next one. Sugar. Now, this is an interesting one. This looks
Hmm.
like a huge gap down, right?
Hmm.
That was a changing contract.
Right.
And look at almost every day, not the first day, but almost every day we close near at or near the high.
Hmm.
So this thing was bid nicely all week, even with the drop from the contract change.
Hmm. Hmm.
What I'm happy to see is it didn't get stuck under the half square. It's a matter of fact, it's clearing the half square now.
Hmm.
And this thing to me again looks like it wants to push right up into the full square.
Right.
So I was really encouraged by this price action. At first, when I saw the gap down, I was like, what the heck happened? And I was like, contract change.
Yep. Yep.
So um, this shows strength to me. Close on the high, close on the high. All right, let's look at the weekly. Weekly's at a pretty important spot. So next week, if we can, have a print, full low print above 1989, we will clear the half square. And if you clear the half square, look at how important this is going back. Pretty important from here and back in here.
Yeah. True.
Get on top of that, and we're heading to 22.
Hmm.
And let's take a look at the monthly. Monthly, we have an up bar, right? And we're gonna again, barring any falling out of bed, we'll have a bar that clears this half square, which opens up 2240. It's funny you were saying there's not a lot to say when a market starts moving, and you can see that with the grains and with sugar as they start going.
Mm.
You're just watching the progress and saying, okay, are we capturing the levels? Are we doing what we need to do to continue to say the chart is bid, right? And people are
Yeah.
buying the
Yeah.
commodity.
Hmm.
And I think you're seeing that in the grains, and I think you're seeing that in sugar right now. Anything you want to add on sugar?
No, we're good.
All right. We'll end with Old Faithful. Now let's see what we did here. So last week we were talking about how, okay, we had this sharp pullback, but
Mm-hmm.
coming right here was good structure, right?
Mm-hmm.
We pulled back, but it's still positive structure. Made our way up, and then look at what we did this week.
Yeah, on fire.
Yeah, but it's a stair step thing, right? We captured the half square at 341, pushed up, got stuck here one day at 4, next day pushed through, and now we got bars clearing it.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and a
right
new
now,
high. Yeah.
and a new high, right? We poked up for a new high. We want to make sure we stay above 401, 402. We get stuck below that, something else is going. It's not ready.
Mm-hmm.
As long as we do, 460s next.
Yeah.
So next week will be really, really important that we stay above, 4. Because if we get stuck under here, then this becomes a false break. So we want to watch that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the weekly. Again, just a powerful move this week, right? We came below it and we said, oh, okay, if we get stuck under 371, we could come back and test like the apex of this triangle or this 271 of the half square. And we just powered right above,
Mm-hmm.
pushed right above this week. And there's that last week close right on the right on
Right on
the
the line. Yeah.
right on the line. And then this week we pushed above. So 371 weekly basis is key.
Mm-hmm.
Stay on top of that, for the full week, and then it's 470. And then the monthly, the only thing I'd say on the monthlies are, we just keep making higher highs every month. That's a nice thing to see. What is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months in a row made a higher high. In a quiet sort of grinding way, if you look at the monthly, it's pushing towards 488.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a lot to say other than it's acting well. Uh, we did have some squares. I have a daily square. I had a weekly square, so we got to watch it and see, that we don't pull back because if we pull back or congest, that could mean okay, that square was significant. If we can push through the square, it means there's bigger cycles involved. So watch that gas closely this week for those signs
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that this wasn't a false break in a square. And it could be a false break in a square and we just, go sideways on top of 4, which would be fine. But if we pull back, you want to be wary that that's possible. Anything you want to add here on that gas?
No, we're good.
So that's it for the commodities. Barrie, I think the ending topic, we don't have to have a sort of a big philosophical discussion, but I think given the action, the price action we saw today and this week, what's top of mind for you now that you're looking at the markets? Like, what are you really focused in on? Because I know as things start moving, your focus gets really, really tight. Like you go from the wide view to the tight view. So
Mm-hmm.
now that we're seeing these moves, what are you focusing on to either get confirmation that the move is happening or that okay, it's not, it's another, like you said, it's another one day wonder drop and we're going to go back into the chop.
Yeah, we'll be talking about highs next Friday. Back up at the highs.
Right, right. No, so where does the
Mm-hmm.
focus go?
Well, two places. One is on the down legs. You want to look at the weight of the support levels, see where it's stopping. And like we saw in the dollar, we have a 30 by 30. So something like that you want to take note of. And not, it doesn't have to be a square. It could be just a really important level,
Hmm.
meaning a degree movement, ABCD targets, things
Structural
that's
support.
structural support. Yeah, anything where it's or resistance, wherever it's stop, market stopping.
Hmm.
And then you want to look at the counter trend. Anytime markets are moving, it's all about the counter trend. So that's the place to add with the lowest amount of risk.
Hmm.
And so it's always, when we talk about a lower high, following squares and things, this is exactly what we're talking about. It's about the counter quality of the counter trend. So
Hmm.
that's what I'm watching, and normally we do it in 30 minute, we can do it in 4 hour, we can do it in daily, depending on your horizon, of course.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think that's it. And so all the energy and the focus go, like let's say we make a low and we start to move higher. Well, then everything goes to looking at where that counter trend will end.
Where does it end? Yeah,
Where at the end, what are the probabilities, and then you wait for some kind of a reversal signal to enter it. So that's kind of how I do it. It's really kind of a rinse and repeat, but it's never the same. So it always keeps you on your toes, but that's what you have to do. One thing is to try to figure out when the trend ends, and next thing is to how to trade the new trend, right? Or
that's
any
it.
trend.
That's it.
Yeah, and it
Yeah,
keeps it simple enough. It keeps it simple,
no, I think your
you know.
answer is perfect. Is you're looking at, okay, where do the moves stop? Like,
Hmm.
is support holding? Is it structural support? Is it degrees? Is it a square?
Hmm.
Where are the moves ending? And then where do what do the counter trends look like, and where do they end? That's where
Exactly.
the focus goes.
Yep. Yep.
Excellent. Well, listen, everybody, we really appreciate all your support. Please, share the link with friends, colleagues, enemies, anybody. Share it with them because we think it benefits.
Hmm.
Make sure you like and subscribe, and we're going to keep saying it as we've said it all year. Rest up because the wild ride is going to continue, and I do
Yeah.
believe it's going to continue all year. So rest up. Hopefully you had a great week, and look forward to having a good week next week. Great job, Barry. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Ben. Good job. We'll talk to everybody next week. Take care. Have
All
a
right.
great week and a weekend.
Yep. See you
Mhm.
later.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.